everybody! Welcome back to Reaper Pro-Tips with me, your host, Ann, and Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Justin, John, and Kiki, the dingo. Toothy. There you go, Toothy. Good girl. There we go. Okay. No. Oh, no, dingo. Exiled. Good girl. Here, get pens. You go enjoy your bully stick, okay? I'll be back. So because we were gone all weekend, and she's never been alone so much before, she's a complete dingo today. Absolute amount dingo. Oh my lordy sakes alive. All right, there are a couple people here who have some sub-anniversaries, or at least a sub and a sub-anniversary. So, let's go all the way back. Hold on, I have to scroll. Crowley, thank you for the 40-month resub crazy talk. Shadow Raven for the 31. Hey, 31 is still almost 3 years, Shadow Raven. That's a heavy commitment. We appreciate you. And finally, Clavicus with the triple sub-anniversary. Happy triple sub-anniversary. Yeah, so hi. Yeah, exiled puppy. We use exiled now. Like when she gets over the top, we're just like, exiled. We put her on the other side of the gate. So that's where we be today. Oh, that's where we be. And I'm here more or less, but I'm like, ugh. Yes, Julie and Bob. It is both, Pendrick. It is both. They usually listen, I think, when they're working together. So yeah. So how are y'all today? How was your Monday? Mine, I'm kind of like, I didn't get a weekend because of the seminar. Because like, even when it's a painting seminar, well, even especially maybe when it's a painting seminar, I don't know, instead of just like lollygagging around for 2 days, you actually have to apply yourself and listen to people or something. It's kind of crazy. So hold on here. Let me just get some stuff out of the way here before we begin on Mr. Dude, and I'll talk about how the seminar was. Off the top of my head, without like talking about like specific stuff, I gotta say Mark is a really cool guy. I love his teaching philosophy. It was very in line with my own. He understands that everyone is different, and he doesn't want to make little carbon cutouts of his style when he's teaching. He wants to give you more tools. So he'll look at what your style is, but he doesn't want you actually to change your style. And if you want to paint the mini in your own style, you can. He's like, do it. But he's like, but I'm also going to show you tools how you could do it my way, and you can determine whether you want to use those tools or not. So I think that's a very, very good attitude for a teacher, especially a high-end teacher, but I think any teacher can benefit from that attitude. It's very tempting to think that unless people do things just the way you do, they won't learn anything, but that's not true at all. So let me just get some of this stuff filed here. Almost got it. There we go. We're going to need our rich leather today, so I'll keep that out. But yeah, so I would say I really liked his attitude as an instructor. I felt like it was, I felt that and some instructors will like expect you to toe their line and do it all their way, right, Pendrake? So I like having an instructor that is more like, hey, do your thing your way, but here's some things to think. Oh, you got your light, nice. But otherwise, I got several very useful things from the seminar, which is really all I ask for from these things at this point. Here, I'll show you my model. Let me dig him out here. This box is very silly, and I'm totally going to like get rid of this insert thing. All right, box thing and lumberjack. All right, so I didn't do the NMM part, which was the last part that he did, but because I felt like I had a handle on NMM, and also so this is what I painted. Hold on while I get in focus. So this is what they taught us to do. Like, this is a model that I don't know if Mark sculpted it or if he had it sculpted. But because I was running home a lot, I was like, I had to take a 2-hour lunch pretty much to go home, walk Kiki, give her attention, and and do all that. So I missed out on something. So I didn't get to do the hair, and I didn't get to do the axe. But all of it is sculpt. All of it. This is a totally smooth model. You can see totally smooth. Totally smooth. So it's all paint. Yeah, so this is all paint. He is very much, now actually there is a little texture on the wool. But if you look at it really close, you'll see how little there is. See that shadow there? That's the most texture there was. If you can look right in there. And there's actually a lot less of it through here. Like, this is just manufactured. And the mustache, like, there's a little bit of beard texture too, but there's almost no mustache texture, so I had to freehand that. And no brow texture. So, yeah. Yeah, he's got really good cheekbones, Kurtiko. You got it. So the sweater is actually a lot more easier than you think it is. It really just takes a lot of patience and some fine motor. Yeah, Small Scottish Cat had a song and everything. So yeah. So what I would say is that if you are at least intermediate level, if you are familiar with glazing, you definitely need to be familiar with glazing for Mark's class. Layering and glazing should be something you are familiar with. But otherwise, as far as it goes, a lot of this is stippling. A lot of this is brush stroke. So you could get some very useful tips from Mark on brush stroke and light and shadow placement. So yeah. So I was mostly doing my light from above and here, so I had a much darker side of the face there. But yeah, so overall, it's cool. Like, will I integrate some of it? Maybe. The leather texture is also much easier to do than you think it is. So if you are an intermediate level painter and you are interested in textures, like learning textures better, and maybe taking a look at it from a little bit of a different perspective, because he definitely does things differently, then I would highly recommend Mark's class. It's not cheap these days to bring these guys over from Europe, so it is definitely, you have to budget for it, but I would say that for a decent intermediate level painter who was maybe trying to maybe push themselves to the next level, this would be a good class. Because he talks about light and he talks a lot about color. Oh no, wet palette. It's all really fine brush strokes. But yeah, he's a lot. Here, I'll show you his. He actually did cabling. This is the box art. So obviously he had a lot more time to work on this than we got in our class. So you got to refine a lot. But yeah, he did manage he managed to get through almost all the content. Like, he had to rush this a little bit more at the end. I mean, we didn't get to the wood grain, but in general, he managed to cover everything else. It's not hard, Kodiak. So the thing that you guys can do to get to the point where you can do things like that sweater is you got to get your fine motor under control. So painting 28s is really good for that. Painting 28 millimeter models is actually very good for fine motor. Like, if you really look at it, the little strokes that I'm doing on this and the little tiny hairs that I picked out on this, that's exactly the same size. It's even, yeah, it's about the same size. So when you paint, do try to hit these little guys here, right? So, because if you can do that, you can do that sweater. That sweater is just rows. You start out with one row and you build outward. And it's just direction of your brush to make sure that it's at a diagonal. And then it's paint consistency and just doing the dots. Like, it's actually super easy. Well, you're out for now, Kuroniko, but you're improving, so. But yeah, that kind of, it's just freehand. And that kind of super fine freehand is just dot, 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 dot. He does a lot with stippling, you guys. So get your stipple hat on. It's my favorite technique. It's the technique that I think is underrated a lot, but he obviously like uses it for a lot. So, but it is, it blows your mind when you first look at it, but then when he deconstructs it and just shows you how to do it, it takes time. Because you're just making rows of tiny dots. It reminded me, David even brought this up more than before I did, but of all the leather texture I did on my Soldier 76 statue. Because that also was just lots of little controlled stippling with a certain consistency of paint. So, David, yeah. I don't know if David got as much from it. He definitely, one interesting thing that Mark does is that he definitely, I'm going to start mixing up paints for finishing this gold, this NMM, by the way. He believes in using different finishes of paint on his pieces. Even though he does NMM, sometimes he wants something to be a little bit more satin, so he'll actually work that. And to be honest, it's not so satin. Like, if you put on paint thicker, and if you use the satin medium, like for Chimera and stuff, but if in a standard paint line, maybe if you put on the paint a little thicker, it tends to read a little shinier. And he's like working with micro levels of shine like that. So, but it's interesting that he also likes to work with really thick paint on some stuff to actually intentionally create brush texture, kind of like an impasto oil painting. So, no, yes, it's all freehand, Twisted Oma. But yeah, it's all freehand. All right, where's my rich leather? There it is. Oh, rich leather, russet brown, brown liner, all the usual suspects. No, Sergio was very different. Sergio was dealing with different finishes. Sergio uses thicker paint for base coating, but then everything gets very thin as he starts, because he also uses an airbrush. I don't think Mark does sometimes, but he didn't teach airbrush in the class, which I was happy about, because I wouldn't get anything out of it because I don't airbrush. But Sergio is, if I had to compare them, Mark's style is like Sergio's style without all the clutter. Like, Sergio will get you to do like multiple layers building up to highlights, all like, like increments, and then he'll blend it all with a glaze. Mark will do only 3 layers, a shadow, a mid, and a highlight, and then he'll blend them just by mixing intermediate shades. He'll do more like I do. Except I normally blend as I go. And I even mentioned that when he came around to look at my model, and I'm like, sorry, I blended it as I went. He's like, that's okay. That's your style. But yeah, so I wish I didn't save a picture, I don't think, of the way that he does it. But essentially, what Mark does at the beginning is he would just block in real rough the shadow, and then he would do a real rough mid-tone, like just where you could see the lines, like a topographical map kind of line. And then he would block in little tiny blobs of highlight that are smaller and kind of roughly hit the wrinkles and stuff like that. But then he'll spend time blending them. But he wants to get his approach is cool, and you could even use it almost on miniatures, the smaller figures, because you're not worrying about blending. You only want to worry. It's like, think about just if you were block highlighting and shading. That's how he starts out. And then you worry about blending the areas into each other, but you already have all your 3 colors and you know where your light is coming from. So essentially by doing that, it allows him to focus and make sure his light looks right, and then he blends. So Sergio's very different though, Babatuk. I think I found Sergio's class to be different. Sergio's class, for one thing, was immensely more frustrating for me. Because Sergio did want you to do it exactly like him. Let me see. Where's my lantern yellow? There we are. And that was fine, but I had a hard time wrapping my head around some of his stuff, and so it was really, really frustrating. Sergio's English also wasn't as good as Mark's. I think a lot of the European painters lay on thick paint initially. That's my personal like takeaway from a lot of from the 2 classes I've done. Like, just because like that's how you cover the most ground. Both of these guys, both Sergio and Mark, they paint for a living, right? They started out doing a lot of commission and a lot of box art, and then Sergio transitioned to his Patreon, and Mark started just doing seminars. And so they're all focused on, if you've got to eat, you've got to finish this model in a week for this box art. And so you need to essentially streamline your process and be able to get things done efficiently and quickly. So using that thick paint out of the bottle, you know, that's just gives you a good ground to start from. Sergio continues to use thick paint though. Mark doesn't always continue to use thick paint. Mark, when he's blending, definitely is thinning his paint more. All right, so as usual with our M&Ms, this is the way you start out if you're building your own triad. Yeah. But yeah, I think I like Mark's style a little bit better. Mark is, however, I like the thing I brought away from Sergio was that it's okay to light both sides of the model. Whereas Mark is much more naturalistic. He wants a main light source, and if you're gonna have both sides of the model lighted, he'd rather see you do a reflected light source or a secondary light source on the back instead of painting both sides of the model as if they're the same, which is what Sergio does. So it's different. It's a different kind of attitude. Probably the 2 philosophical things that I took away from Mark's class that will be very useful to me in the future is that you shouldn't make yourself feel like you have to finish a model, quote unquote, to somebody else's standard. Like, with Noli, the reason I grounded out on Noli is that I really wanted to paint one half of her, and I didn't care so much about the other side with all the braids and stuff. And for Mark, he's like, so just paint the side you want to. That was your point. You wanted to try a fur texture, and you did it. So put the model away. It's done. Like, don't sit there and guilt yourself that you have to spend time painting the other side that you have no inspiration for and you have no, like, love for. Just, you know, block in the white primer you have left and put it away. Put it away. Because it's not doing any good, and it's just sitting on your head, sitting there telling you should be doing X or Y, when actually you shouldn't care. It's your project. It's your mini. You did what you wanted to. It's done. Who cares if the other side isn't painted? It's done. Photo it from the one side. Right. So isn't that, see, and to have somebody at that high level of painter look at you and say, no, it's done. Who cares? It's your mini. Who cares? Finish the part you want to finish as an exercise for yourself and put it away. It's done. Poof. It's just done. That was super freeing. Like, so I wanted to bring that back to you guys because we get a lot of shoulda, woulda. Like, we should finish it. We should do X. We should do Y. And I think we need a little bit more of, you know what? I really wanted to paint this guy's face, and I painted it, like, to the standard I wanted. And you know what? I don't really want to paint the rest of it. And then it's done. It's done. It becomes part of a collection of, this is what I wanted to do with this mini. And so you always have to ask yourself what you should do if you really want this, if you want to utilize this mindset shift, the best thing to do is probably to look at the model as you're starting it. And instead of just automatically assuming that you're just going to finish everything to the same level, ask yourself, what do I really want to do on this model? Like, what's my point? Is my point to paint the whole model, and am I excited about the whole model? Or did I pick this model up because I wanted to do a transparent fabric effect on it? Did I pick this model up for the animal because I wanted to paint the animal companion? Did I pick this model up because it was a good skin tone practice or hair practice, right? So, like, if you look at that model and you're like, you know what, I really want to paint the whole thing, great. You have that goal then. But you should also, like, if you really picked up a model and you, like, had a particular thing you wanted to execute on, give yourself the freedom to only execute on that thing and not put a ton of pressure on yourself to paint all the parts that you don't care about. Because the other... Yeah, like, they're done. Like, Kreniko, if you learned what you learned, and it's not a shame to even display them. Like, at least block in the back so there's not a ton of white primer, probably. Or something like, just like shade it, just put a coat of walnut over it or something. And if people ask, it's like, well, that was an exercise piece for me. I wanted to practice this, or I was trying to work on my fine motor, or I was trying to, to see if I could do fur this way, And so I learned X, and now it's part of my learning cabinet. You could even, like, this is my learning cabinet. These are all models that are partially done that I learned on. I think that would be a fantastic way to just put it, like, just to have it. You know what, though, Kuroniko, try doing a walnut, like, just do a walnut glaze or a walnut heavy wash over whatever you're not going to paint. Paint the rest. Like, then it's fine. Who cares? Like, you shouldn't, you know what? Here, okay, let's, self-help time. Warning. Go get a sandwich if you don't want to hear this. Okay, you can't let other people's expectations control you. You are your own person. You can choose to not finish all the minis for your game. You could just do a heavy walnut wash, paint the parts that you want to, leave the rest with the walnut wash, and be happy about it. It's your choice to be happy about that. And if your players give you shit, say, well, paint your own models. This is how I'm rolling, because guess what? I wanted to paint this bust. I didn't want to sit and paint all my, I would rather do that than paint all these minis for our game, so I'm just going to paint the parts of the minis that I feel inspired for. And, if you don't like it, like, take up some painting yourself, maybe, I hate to say it, but I'm trying to internalize this a lot lately, but it's like, it's our choice whether we let other people dictate how we live our lives. Like, just hardcore right there, guys. If you are afraid of what other people think and you are letting that dictate how you are living your life, stop and take a good hard look at yourself and say, do I really need to do this? I really have the freedom to, like, decide whether you're going to care what those people think. And it may even help to have a talk with them about, if you're painting for D&D and you just feel pressured and you feel like you have to paint to a certain standard for them. Like, it's like, dudes, I really am, like, getting burnt out. I don't think I want to do this for you anymore. Like, so I'll just paint what I can. Just heads up. If they give you crap about it, like, I'd really look side-eye at them, like, and say, this is my choice. I'm the one choosing to do this. Do you want me to not choose to do it? I can do that too. Yes, yep. Nobody can make you feel, can make you feel bad about something with it. Wasn't it Eisenhower, the wife? I don't remember her first name, but president's wife, who said, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. It's true. It's true. And you know what? A lot of us I know are older, and they always say that the nice thing about getting older is that you just don't give a shit anymore about what other people think about you. Yeah, you could just not paint stuff at all. So, like, it's like cool if just paint the part you wanna. Like, just paint the face and sketch in the body, and it's still better than a freaking dice or cardboard counter. Like, yeah, and it's cool. If you have plans for a current project that take you farther than that, that's great, because guess what? That's your intention. You should paint to your intention and not to other people's intentions. I don't remember. I think it was Eisenhower. 76, yeah, that's around my mom and dad age at this point. I think that's exactly how old they are. Mom said she didn't feel old until this year, though. She had a back surgery, and that made her feel old. But I think she's recovering it now, so she's got her functionality back. Oh, and that's just, like, that's toxic. Like, that is toxic. Tell that DM to, like, give his players a sit-down talk. You know what? Yeah, see. But it's not about whether it's competition or fun. I mean, Kuro's painting for fun, but she still has expectations leveled on her from her gamers. I'm trying to paint for fun, but sometimes all that my brain chatters on about is what people will think when they see my model. Like, so you don't have to paint for competition to have this problem. In fact, I think that most people who have this problem don't, probably. But yeah, if competitions make you feel that way, then that's a good reason to avoid competition. Yeah. But yeah, and it takes a bit. I mean, I hate to quote Harry Potter here, but it takes a lot. Standing up to people who don't like you is easier than standing up to your friends. and just to put some power to Neville there. But they're right. It's very hard to stand up to the people who we like and are like, you know, running a game for, or who hang out with us and who are going to be disappointed if we don't like bring out a great model next time or whatever. But I'm just going to get over that. Like, that's something I've needed to get over for a while. And the thing that getting over that does is it lets you love your hobby again. Oh man, oh no, I need to go grab my brushes. My brushes are in the other room because I took them to the class. See, and that's cool, but that's your intention then, Thormal. You have made that decision. You really like it. It motivates you. That's different than painting because your party would give you crap if you didn't paint it, right? If your party would give you crap if you didn't paint it or didn't paint it finished, then that's a different motivation than I really want to scare the bejeebus out of them with this monster and I'm looking forward to painting it. So... Yes, exactly, Korniko. Exactly. That's exactly it. Hold on, let me grab my brushes. Oh no, Papa, you're fine. There we go. This is the problem with going to a thingy. Is I end up bringing all my stuff that I need for my stream. Because the thing is that a lot of people who are not as emotionally mature may feel entitled that, you know, you do this, and so then they're like, they deserve it. And then it's all about them, right? Then they're like, well, I'm so disappointed that you didn't do this, you know, when it's really not your job to make them feel good at all. Like, it's dangerous because people take you for granted. I wish I could, there are people in my dog club I wish I could, like, give a talk to about this. But it's like they're always exhausting themselves running around and doing stuff for other people, and they're never spending time on their own cares. 1 second, let me get some water in this. And they're not doing what they want to do with intention, right? It's your own. I think intention is a very powerful word to use in there, not just expectations and reactions, but it definitely is managing your reaction, right? It's the whole, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And that is truth. That is truth. That's part of all this. But yeah, but I recently like had it couched to me as like, you know, know your own intention toward what you're doing before you set out, right? And your own intention should be what you're following, not what other people's expectations are. So it's not just your own expectation, because your own expectation can easily get poisoned by other people's expectations, right? I mean, Zen would teach us not to expect anything, but just to execute, right? So, but yeah. Yeah, exactly, Inara. Exactly. And those people are only saying that because they want you to keep taking care of them, right? Like they are used to not having to do the work on their own, and their maturity level is not quite what we would hope. They don't have the tools to know that they don't control you. But this is all part of that, right? This is all like, and it's not that you're like painting in a vacuum or creating in a vacuum or living in a vacuum. It's just that, you know, approach these things with it, knowing your own intention and your own expectation just for yourself. And then whatever else happens is awesome, you know? Yeah, well, you know, there's survival. It's that whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing. And food is one of the base needs, Shadow Raven. So social needs, sadly, come after food. This is just the way humans are wired. Also, I can't believe I, mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs on freaking Paint Stream. Yeah, don't mention food. Don't mention food. I'm back on the diet today. I let myself have a treat day yesterday because of the last day of the seminar, and I may have consumed more carby things than I should have. Also, we had tamales because I figured that was a carby thing that I wouldn't normally have. And I found some at my favorite grocery store that were locally made, and they were so good. Oh, intermittent fasting. Yeah, that's a rough one, Kodiak. That's a rough one. All right, I'll stop talking about food. But yeah, it's all in that. So anyway, that was the first one useful thing that I got from Mark that I think will probably seriously inform my future decisions about various things. And some of us just have that kind of personality, right, Kriniko, where we see something and we want to fix it. And our lifelong battle is to understand that it is not us necessarily that has to fix everything, right? Understanding which battles that we pick and which battles are going to be, the most rewarding for us. Yeah, but you gotta, if you live for everybody else, you're never living for yourself. And you don't have to be selfish about it. It's not about being selfish or generous. There's an argument that living for yourself is one of the most generous things you can do, because then, you gain insight and wisdom that you can bring to others to help them live their own lives, right? Like, that's part of like trying to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, then others may lose you sooner than you want them to. Or they may lose out on the best parts of you. And, that's part of that. Yeah, I'm doing Noom, so I'm still low carb on Noom, which Noom gets irritated at me for, even though it's supposed to be customizable. But I already have lectured the Noom people on the fact that they need to dealio with that. But yeah, it's just eating fewer calories, and I can do easier on that when I'm not eating a bunch of carbs. So. All right, I think we almost have all these colors mixed up. Oh yeah. Well, that's your kind heart, Kerniko. Plus, when you help a hurt critter, you can learn from that hurt critter. Like, it's just good. It does good for the world, so. That's different. A hurt critter that can't help itself is a lot different than a hurt human that really can help itself, but just doesn't want to. Alrighty, brushes. Oh, I got new brushes, too, because I learned that local game store actually carries Winsor Newton Series 7s, so I got some cool water effects stuff, too. We'll play with it, but I got bigger ones. I got bigger Winsor Newton Series 7s. So I think I got a size 2 and a 1. They come in the cute tubules. I do like the tubules. But yeah, it's like my decision to take my walk last night instead of addressing the latest dog club related emergency, which was really just a breeder who was not like watching out for their own interests and was letting themselves be distracted by a bunch of other stuff, and they thought they had time and they don't. But it's like, well, I'll get the things done for her, but I'm not gonna sublimate my own health for that. Yeah, it's hey Roger. Yeah, Winsor Newton Series 7 is not my favorite brand, Pendrake, but it was nice that they had them to actually look at in the store. They're definitely more expensive when you buy them from a local store than Dick Blick or Amazon. because the store, of course, has to make money off of it. But it's worth like supporting a local store. I will pay every once in a while. I will pay extra to support a local store if they carry stuff that I am into. So yeah, so I got a I was snacking. I just programmed my snacks into my calories for the day. Like an afternoon snack is really the one I want. But snacking went a lot lower when I went to low carb. So a 2 and a 1, Winsor & Newton Series 7. And the 2 is really big. Really big. And then the 1 needs a little repoint here. The 0 of this line of the Series 7 is actually the same size as my DaVinci Maestro Series 10 size 1. So here I've got a 0, a 1, and a 2. So here are our different sizes of Winsor & Newton. So you can see they scale up very quickly with the Winsor & Newtons. Let me see. Do I have my DaVinci over here to throw out a... No, I've got one of those in the other room. Yeah. But yeah, snacking is a struggle. I just find that since I know I'm going to want a snack, I just figure out like how many calories I'm permitted and what I can eat on that, and I just try to hold to that. That way I have my snack, but I can't just sit there and snack. After dinner, is it like fog eating where you're watching TV and you just want something, Crowley? Because that's weird, because after dinner, you should be full. Then it's usually a brain thing. Like, I do have the horrible impulse to eat when I'm bored. So, bored and stressed. Those are my 2. But yeah, so there's the Winsor Newtons, and we'll see how they do. I've been betrayed by them in the past, so it could be that I get annoyed at them again. But we've been using this Winsor & Newton 0 for a while now, and it hasn't betrayed me yet, so that's why I decided to go and pull the trigger on those. And then I got some Bored and Tired, zonked out from Toddler Time. Yeah. Well, you could try to, like, if you figure out, like, what your trigger is, you could try to take a walk instead of taking a snack and see if you still feel the same after you take your walk. Because, we're getting longer days and the weather's getting nicer. Hypothetically. All right, let's get this going on. So on this, there's a little bit of a rounded area here. So that highlight is going to be like it's on a cylinder. So from top to bottom. But then we've got straight edges out here. So I'm going to just kind of block in some highlight. Mark also felt that blocking in your strongest highlight was where to start with NMM. So I feel like I'm good. But yeah, figuring out where your strongest lights are going to be. You don't even have to map them in with white. I usually use my first highlight to map them in. So there's going to be, because there's a little bit of a roll here. So this is a cylinder, so we get a top to bottom. But then here, this is very flat, the other sides of the hilt. So they're just going to have the highlight at the top and a little bit of a reflected light at the bottom. Oh, okay, and there's a second thing. So not only did I learn that very useful thing from Mark's class, but I also learned a second thing. And that is, he pointed out that it's much easier to be brave with a model, to try new things with a model, when you are early on in the model. He pointed out that the more you paint on a model, the more you get afraid of messing it up. And the more cautious you become. So if you want to try a new technique, or you want to do something like completely out of your wheelhouse and just like try something new, do it at the beginning. Do it at the beginning of the model. Make it the first thing you do. And that way you don't have the fear of messing it up, because you're at the beginning, you can always paint over it. You can always reprime. It's not a big deal. So, oh, you're in Mark's class. Good. Yeah. Were you here earlier to see my model, Max? He's very, I like his teaching style a lot. I really like Mark. Because you're down in San Diego, right? So this is the mini. There. So that's my example. Yeah, this is what I got done. And I actually had to leave early and and take long lunches, and I still managed to get a lot done. So I like to leave parts of the model like where I can see how it started when I do a class. So I actually am happy if I don't finish things so much, because if I can see the start, I can remember how I did it, right? So I try to have like stuff at various stages on the model. But yeah, so that's why I left this kind of undone over here. And I left the backside of the shoulder. I just let it kind of trail off on the other side of the arm so I could see what I had done. But a lot of this is not super hard. It's actually a lot easier than you think it is to do the leather texture and the knitted. But yeah, so, and he'll let you use whatever colors you want. Somebody did a blue skin tone. Everybody's skin tone was different in the class. It was really cool to put the models together at the end. So I'll put him back in his box. Yeah, and in line with Mark's teachings in the class, I may never finish him. May not. He may just be like a demo model that I did some work on, and I'll take those techniques and I'll use them later on a model that I actually intend to finish. Yeah, I did it with Kyril's bust too, until I had time to practice the techniques on other models, and then I did actually finish Kyril's bust. But like Sergio's the same thing. I kept my NMM at like the beginning stage because I know what it should look like finished. So keeping it at the beginning stage meant that I understand how to start it. Because sometimes that's the hardest thing with a new and particular technique that you haven't internalized, that you're learning from a different painter, is remembering how you start it. Because finishing is often very similar from painter to painter, but how you begin, especially with textures or NMM, can be very different. Oh, yeah, yep. Hey, Quindy. Yeah, he did. He took video of all of our stuff, so... Lane, who's the class organizer who brought him in, who's a friend of his, Lane told me that our class was pretty advanced compared to the other class. So we'll see how you guys do down in San Diego. So I'm going to just hit the top part of that because there's going to be light falling that way. But yeah, it was cool. I like his teaching style a lot. But yeah, so I also liked the thing about like be brave and try new things when you're at the beginning of the model, because the more that you paint, the more it gets kind of set, the more scared you get to try something new. And I thought that was a really good tip, very insightful, because I find that it is true. Yeah, I know I haven't seen you, Quindy. I haven't, like, you've not been in chat. Oh, I'm going to get my white out because I want to be able to do the highest highlights on these. But yeah, so I find that's a pretty good tip, I think. And even though I paint in sections, you know, to give myself that kind of little, hey, I completed this part boost, I still feel like I can do that, because then if I'm going to try something really different on a model, I can just do that section first, right? So... but definitely take your risks earlier in the model is what he feels. I thought that might help you guys too, because a lot of you are trying to learn and get better, and are in various like stages. And so you're often trying new things, or to try a experiment with a new color or medium or technique. Oh, yuck, Quindy. I hate that. It's like people will get back to you when people get back to you. That's the probably the hardest, my own hardest challenge with that is the dog club. For many years, I did so much for all of them. I did the majority of the work. I wrote the bylaws. You know, I do all these things. I'm constantly there. I'm constantly available for anybody. And then I started scaling back last year. It wasn't what I wanted to prioritize anymore. And I was sick of being kind of taken advantage of. Like every time anybody had an emergency, they expected me to be able to help them, even if I had stuff going on. Yeah, I just don't really anymore. Especially now that I have Kiki and I'm going to be breeding again if she passes all her health testing. So I'm going to put in some shadows here. Right under the highlight. Remember, shadows right under the highlight. That gives you that shiny. See how we got that shiny look going on? Chick-fil-A face on. But yeah, so that's the hard part for me and the hard part for them is, you know, they're used to me being constantly available and I've just not been. Like, I'm like, I might get to my email every 3 days, you know. I might check my messenger once a week. So we've got our little highlights and we've got our shadows up there. I could darken my shadows here on the hilt, and it would make it pop a little bit more shiny, but I wouldn't go over that entire area again. I would just do a little tiny bit of darker shadow with my brown liner. So russet brown is a pretty good dark for the sort of like just general gold NMM, but if you push it darker, you'll get a shinier effect. Yeah. Yeah, but the company is going to drag its feet on hiring, right? Because that's what they do. That's what they do. Maybe you should point out it's impinging on your real job. Did you get assigned that, or did you offer to help, Quindy? Russet brown is our equivalent for burnt umber, artist burnt umber, 9199. It is probably my favorite brown in our line. Just go slow. And remember to make your glazes like lighter rather than heavier, Richard. That way you can always put on another glaze. You can always put on another glaze. But when you lose that light, that underpainting, that white-gray underpainting, then you've got to spend time highlighting again. So if you start really lightweight with your glazes, you can just generally slowly build it up. Assigned and not stop complaining. Good. Yeah, I kind of have that too, Kerniko. The angrier I get, the like tighter, like more withheld I get. I'm going to put a pure white highlight here to go with a little dark side of there. Now we're getting serious shiny here. So my darkest dark is brown liner, but I use very little of it and it's thinned. For the top of the hilt there, we do need to make it lighter. I'll usually darken it a little bit around the actual hilt of the sword, or the pommel of this, the handle of the sword. And I'll usually highlight out toward the edges. I understand waiting to the end to paint your dragon because you want the dragon to be really good. And if you paint everything else first, then you It's that problem where you paint the general of your army first, and then once you paint the rest of your army, your mooks look better than your general because you learned so much painting the rest of the army. So a little bit highlight out toward the edge there. Yep, MSP Russet Brown. That can be dangerous, yeah. If the dragon needs to be white, make your purple glaze extremely, extremely low key. And just enough so that it just tints the gray, and then just go over it with the white. You don't want a lot. Yeah, again, do a real pale purple glaze, and then, or real lightweight, very thinned. And do it in sections, because you got to wick out all the excess. You can't leave it to pool if you're doing a glaze. It's not a wash. And then you can always go back with a stronger purple and just paint it into a few areas to help tie it into the rest of your color scheme. But if you hit the entire dragon with it, it's just everything's gonna go purple. It won't be a white dragon. Because the purple is gonna overwhelm the white really, really easily. That's why I would say really, really, really lightweight purple glaze. And you can always take a little extra purple and paint it into some areas to tie it in. Don't go too crazy. Unless you want a purple dragon, then you're okay. The other thing that Mark is all about, that we've talked about before on this show quite a bit, is photo references. You should always be using, in his book, you should always be using a photo reference for, if you're trying to paint anything at all naturalistic. So if you're painting an animal or you're painting a human face, trying to match a skin tone, you should always be referring to a reference. Because otherwise you'll miss details that would make it look realistic. Then you won't end up with a pink dragon as long as your purple is purple enough. Then go with a purple that has more blue in it. You shouldn't go with a reddish purple. If you go with a really reddish purple, then you are asking for a pink dragon. Plus, since your purple's in your shadows, it should be cooler anyway. It should be closer to blue, not red. So the purple that you choose is what's going to dictate that, Richard. I'm going to put my russet brown into the shadow here, right under this rivet, to get that break. Nice. Nice, Agent. Yeah, anytime you want anything to be white, you got to remember to make your shadows like really not nearly as strong as you think. Everybody overdoes it. So I'm taking my pure white this time and setting up my highlights on that little area here. Ugh. But yeah, Mark's class very cool. I wish I'd had a weekend, right? That's my only thing with these. Like, I really wanted to do this, especially to do it with David, so that we could do a thing together. So it was definitely worth it. But I felt like I didn't get a weekend, and I feel like it's killed some of my momentum on my book. So today's book day to get back in. Oh, and I was thinking about doing a pre-order, and then I read a bit more about how Amazon does pre-orders, and they don't do it very good. Like, compared to other platforms, So like if you are on like Apple Books or iBooks or whatever it is, or B&N, and you do a pre-order on your book, the sales for that pre-order actually count to your day of launch sales. So it's a good way to like get yourself like a boost into onto lists and get more eyeballs on your book, right? But Amazon really does it not that way. Like Amazon really, the pre-order is only good for people who have a big audience already, because it actually they dilute it. Like you get the sales actually just when you make the sales, which is actually not good for smaller authors like me, because that means it's diluting your day of launch numbers, not adding to them. So I'm glad I read up about it, because I was thinking about doing one. Instead, I think I will do like maybe a 1 week pre-order, but I'll promote during that week for book 2. But that would be the only way that it would work for me as a new author. Yeah, then you won't have too much trouble. It won't go pink. Those are not very pinkish paints, Richard. You would need a lot more red for it to go pink. So yeah. So yeah, I think I'll publicize the release date, but I will I'm not going to put up a pre-order until it's very close. Ah. So just like everywhere else on this, you've got your light and you've got some shadows, and then you need this underlight. And make sure to undercoat it with white when you want to get that really bright purple in the cracks. Paint the cracks white, Agent Marvel, and then go over it with the bright purple. That's the way to get that. There, we got some gold right underneath that hilt. I didn't do this gem before, so I'm going to have to go back and hit that. So I'm going to actually paint it white to remind myself so that it sticks out like a sore thumb. My white is thinned, so it'll take more than one coat. Oh, the other thing I did for my model for Mark's classes, it's almost 100% Chimera. It only has, the only MSP I used was pure white, because I was trying to, because he wanted us to use a wet palette, and I just, if I'm going to use a wet palette at all, I prefer thicker paint on it. So I did make myself use a wet palette for like 75% of the weekend. But when it came down to like super fine stuff, like when it came down to the sweater, I totally switched to my well. A little bit of highlight here. This is underneath the hem here, so really we're only going to get some reflected light probably here. Yeah. It doesn't have to be any standard. Yeah, it's not like only people who like, it's not like Facebook where only everybody, you know, everybody only puts up their best work. It's totally, can be any level to post stuff. We just like to see painted models. So a little bit of russet brown to shade around that rivet. Yeah. Yep. And that's cool. It is cool to have a lot of people who are learning, because then they can get good feedback and learn new stuff. New people keep our hobby alive. Oof. Let's see here. Maybe just a little bit of light on this side. And I'm going to hit that little rivet. So just a little bit of light down here. To bring out the color. Yep. Yeah, both my personal one for the Patreon and Reaper's communities are both. Oh, there's a lot of crossover, but they're both great crowds. There are plenty of places to go if you want like more hardcore critique. We like to be friendly. Yeah. Hey, it's important to keep our hobby alive. There we go. Quindy with the threats. There we go. We're good. Wouldn't be a day without Quindy with the Lucafist threats of doom. It's Rhonda Day today, isn't it? Here on the Reaper channel. Oh, Rhonda won't be on. Okay. No, Rhonda. Well, you're all left to your own devices. Quindy, our benevolent yet threatening protector. Hey, somebody's got to keep this crowd in line. Quindy reserves her true wrath for the person who gave her that damn receptionist job. All right, I'm just like popping around. Okay, I've got to get this, the cane top here. All right, so once again, this is a rounded, kind of a cylinder, right, that wraps around the top of this staff. And that means that we're going to have that same thing we had going on over here on the sword, where the light goes down it in a stripe. We've got a basic light kind of sketched in, so I'm going to actually put the shadow in. It's nice to be back in my kneeling chair. The chair actually at the seminar that I got wasn't bad. They had some branded chairs that were nice. Then the standard folding chairs, so I was really glad I didn't get a standard folding chair because they're evil. My back would have been ruined and Quindy would have gotten the "I cannot stream tomorrow, I am dying" text from Anne. I took half a muscle relaxer last night just in case anyway. Now I got to bring that shine up. We've got our shadow. I need a little bit deeper shadow on this one. Luckily, they're very infrequent, Quindy. So you can see that shadow kind of hemming in that little band of light. So now we'll take our white and bring in the strongest light. Oh, yawning. Actually, David worried me last night. He wanted to go to bed at like 9:30. He was also slugging orange juice. Like, he chugs orange juice. Like, it's so funny. He doesn't normally drink orange juice until he feels like, oh, I feel like I might get sick. And then he's like just constantly drinking orange juice. It's like, if you got your vitamin C more regularly, you might not run into that as much. Same Astro. Quindy. Yeah, crappy folding chairs are the bane of anybody with like weak core and back issues. My core is a lot better now, but I still didn't want to taunt it by sitting in one of those folding death traps for the entire weekend. So I was glad that David saved me a nice chair. Oh yeah, it's terrible for your back. Especially since all of us have weak cores anyway. I mean, not so much me. I've been doing yoga now for a few years, and so I definitely feel much stronger about that. Like, I can actually deal with it, but before that, it would have killed me. And even now, if I'm in a really crappy chair for more than an hour, I definitely start feeling it. Even after, like, all the yoga I do. All the exercises. But considering, like, when I first moved here, my core was just tragically bad. And I had back issues big time, really bad, when Kiri was in her last year. I just remember how terrible it was. I'm glad I'm past that now. Yay for yoga. Highly recommend. 2 thumbs up. It's not like I do that much yoga either. It's like, I think it takes me about 10 minutes to do my routine every day. I do it before I get in the shower. And get it out of the way. And it's helped a lot. And I'm not doing any extreme yoga either. None of that crazy stuff. Very functional. We're keeping it functional. And we're just going to do that little bit that he's got his hand around. I need to do the little round around his gemstone up top too. This has facets. Okay. Oh boy. I made chimichurri sauce, fresh chimichurri sauce last week, and it's my new favorite sauce. What a tasty, tasty thing. I like it better than pesto. And it has the same kind of herbs and olive oil kind of thing with pesto, but so tasty. What material is it, Delta? Because depending on the material is how hard it'll be to strip. If they're metal, you're pretty home free. They're plastic. Yeah. Don't leave them in too long. And don't expect to get all the paint out. Especially if they were primed. Don't expect to get all the paint off out of the crevices. Just do your best. Depends on the type of plastic too, but... And to be honest, Delta, like, if the paint isn't really thick, chances are you could just prime them. Yeah, it requires you to paint in your shadows, Delta, when you prime with white. Your colors are much brighter, so you want to start usually with colors that are just a shade darker than you think. And you need to actually paint in your shadows when you use white primer. Yeah, sometimes I agree with Kodiak. Sometimes it's better to just paint or prime over it. Yeah, I prefer white. Actually, these days I prefer Zenith. But working over these bones models is pretty much using a light gray primer, which has a lot in common with white. I still do prime some models white instead of Zenith. It really depends on the colors that I'm trying to use. If I'm using a lot of light and bright colors, then white makes a lot of sense because it's very hard to bring up a real bright color over black. I can't use a straight up black primer though anymore. Like everything is just too dark and I can't see the details very well. Everybody's different. But yeah, it can be real shock when you try to use white for the first time after using black primer because you're like, wait, you know, where are my shadows? Because the black primer takes care of the shading for you. It's like a trade-off. It's like light and bright colors over black are very much harder to do. But the black also like it'll take your paints down a notch, and so you won't ever get anything garish, and it will shade for you. Oh yeah. Fatherwind, you mean as far as these models? Every inch of the Reaper stuff is done on screen, every bit. As far as, do you mean how much time I paint my own models? That's different. Then it varies. I paint here and there in the evenings, Fatherwind, and I don't spend any time with these. The Reaper models are only painted on stream. But like, I often will do a stream on Saturday, and sometimes I will do some work at night. So I'm working on this guy, this Anubis guy. He's pretty cool. He's really close to done, so I really want to get him to that point really soon. So he's got his big side that goes on his hand. But for myself, I tend to paint larger models. I don't paint 28s for me because I don't enjoy them as much anymore. So I paint like this, working on this bust for a Patreon, but I'm also just painting it because I like her. So we're working on skin tones. I have my priestess over here somewhere. She's cool. Limbo miniatures. So yeah, I've got a few projects going. Like, I would say because this is my main job, Fatherwind, that I don't paint as much as I used to, unless I just get really in the groove, like where I want to paint this bust or I want to paint this project, right? And I get excited and I'll paint like, several nights in a row. But you have to really watch it when you do it for your day job too, that not to get like totally burned out on it. So I only paint in the evenings when I really feel like it. And I do like to stream on Saturdays when I'm not otherwise busy. And I'll work on my stuff on stream. So, but that's about it. If I didn't do this, if like I didn't paint every day on stream, because we do this stream every morning, I probably would spend more time in the evening painting, yeah. Doing my own stuff. And if I didn't have the Patreon too, but yeah, right. And also you can just like, yeah, your back can be sad, right? If you do too much. So I need to get that. I think it's a black indigo. I need to get my black indigo and rich indigo out so I can paint that gem and then we're good. Where are you, black indigo? Where are you? There you are. Yeah, where are you, rich indigo? There you are. But yeah, so I still paint stuff for me, but it really depends because lately I've been working on my writing, and so a lot of my creative energy has gone to writing and less to painting. And so yeah, it varies. Just like anybody, probably. I used to be painting all the time. Like, that was my main... Back when I was developing my skills, that was probably my main hobby. I'm gonna just squeeze out some of this indigo over here so I can get the gemstones done there. My mom was always worried about me workaholicing a lot. These days, I reach for other things, both because I do have a tendency to workaholic and because my husband keeps me, because I want to do stuff with him. And sometimes we will paint together, but often, like, he'll ask me to play a video game with him instead. So it helps to keep me from workaholic on the minis. But yeah, while I was, before I moved out here with David, I was doing a lot of painting in my evening time. All right, let's get this black indigo on this gemstone. And then I'm going to get my shadows into it like that one, and bring it up on the bottom. But yeah, I mean, I put in a few decades of painting now, so and I'm always very careful because this is the majority of my living. I am careful not to, it's really burnout. I just don't want to burn out on it. I want to be able to still enjoy it. So, and I have burned out before on miniature painting, so I know how dangerous it can be. I'm going to just try to get this a little lighter down here. Ah, that's a little bit too much. But yeah, it really depends. Sometimes, some weeks I really feel like mini painting. Like, and I'll tell David, I'll warn him, I'm just like, I want to paint more this week. A little bit of a highlight there. Got that gemstone, that gemstone. Everybody looks pretty good. Good, good, good. Oh, I missed a gold part around there. Can do it quick. But yeah. It's a very difficult spot here around the gem over here. But I can hit the top highlight. I might need to use my white for underpainting here because it's so shallow. So I'm going to do an underpaint. Just do a white on the bottom of this and I'll paint over it with my gold color. Since it got painted in dark, just putting the gold color won't work. It won't show up against that walnut. So, but if I put white down first, then I can get it to show up. Yeah, there's actually a couple of busts, Kodiak, that are in the other room right now that are the main reason I want to finish Anubis. Because I've made a deal with myself that because I get too overwhelmed if I've got too many projects open at one time. So I have to finish Anubis before I can start a new project. That's my own deal with myself. There we go. So now we have a little bit of that highlight. But yeah, it's a big child bust that David is doing, but I want to do it as a ranger or druid. She's like painted, the box art is like a sorceress, like a moon sorceress almost. She's all in white. The bird is blue and purple, but David's doing her more like with the bird in crimson, and she's like gold and red and black. And I want to paint her like a druid, so. But yeah, it'll be a project. Right now I'm like kind of lost love on some of these other ones, so I'm probably going to put them away and come back to them at a future time. I'm not sure. Not sure. Once Anubis is out, maybe I'll feel like working on the Limbo Priestess again, but I think the Druid, the White Werewolf Tavern Druid, I think I'll put him away. Because I think there are things I'd rather paint right now. I forgot I need to do the gold around here too. And then I'm also working on my Golden Demon for next year entry. My Sisters of Battle model. And mostly I need to just sit down and mess around with her for a while. She's going to be a lot of glazing just to get her smooth. I think I can finish this up in 5 minutes. We'll go a little late. Oh, David's is almost done already, I think. He's much faster than I am. Mostly it's the color scheme. And I might also put a spell effect in her hand, which I don't think he's going to do, but he might if he sees me do it and he likes it. He has her plan to enter in our local competition over Memorial Day weekend because there's actually a big child manufacturer prize this year. So he'll be doing her to competition standard. He held off entering last year because he always wins. It seems like he's won a lot of Best in Shows in a row. So he held off last year, and then they gave Best in Show to me, and I was like, no. But yeah, I suspect David's will be done. I don't even know if mine will be started by the time his is done, because it would take me a long time. Because I'm not gonna. I mean, I can paint pretty fast if I sat down every night and worked on it, but that feels like work to me. So I usually in the evening I listen to my gut on what I want to do. It's like I said, burnout is always a danger. There we go. We got some nice shinies. Yeah, sometimes that can happen. Haven't had it happen myself, Richard, but I know somebody who's done that with a friend. They just like lost love on their minis and they just sent them to the friend who really liked them. David has done that to me, actually. There's a model that I really like that he started painting, and he just ran totally out of oomph to finish it. And technically, he gave it to me so that I could finish it. Just haven't, worked on it. All right, there we go. Nice shinies, 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 shinies. So we gotten all the shinies now. Oh, back of the sleeve, back of the sleeve. There's just when you think all the gold is done, it's never done. It's never done. That's okay. I don't hear any little papa paws yet, so. Doo-doo-doo. Little bit of a shiny there. Yeah, David painted most of the model, but then he just didn't care enough about the base and the little animal companion to the figure. I know, we'll finish it one of these days, or we won't. I'm just going to start putting all my half-finished miniatures in the same cabinet David has his in. All right, there we go. That's much nicer. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I don't see any more wardrobe fails on the NMM, except that I need to put an under highlight on this. There. There we are. Dude. Now I just have to figure out basing. If we're going to do anything. I'll have to think on it. He looks good. I'm happy with him. I'm happy with how he came out. He looks like the model I envisioned. So he looks all nice and opulent, but he looks like he's kind of rustic too. So let me see if I finished his buckle. If not, I can finish it quick. I did put some highlights on it, but you're right, I didn't finish it out, Agent. 1 second. That's an easy fix. Buckles are super fast. So put a shadow underneath the tongue. I'm going to thin my brown liner just a little bit. There we go. Put shadows underneath the top. Although this guy, I'd probably put shadows here and here at the corners because he's got overlap on his shirt. So really it's only at the center you're going to get a highlight, but generally shadows at the corners. Same down here. You usually want a little bit of a shadow on the side. And then a little bit of a shadow down here. And then, now that we've got that shadow, we grab our white and we pop our highlights. Central highlight here because the light is coming down through there. Light over here. Light on the tongue. With buckles, you almost never have to have anything other than your shadow, your white, and your gray. Because everything is so thin, you don't need to blend it. And now it's all shiny. Ta-da! Thanks for the catch. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want him on cobblestones, I don't think. There. All my gemstone settings I'm totally forgetting. There. Okie dokie. Yay! Now really he's done. Except for the base. So yeah, I might do him on the base and just have the cobblestones kind of go off into some dirt and bring some grass in to kind of interrupt the cobblestone area so that it's like it's an overgrown kind of courtyard kind of thing. So I might do that for the next one. Yeah, and I would have to chop his feet off. I should have chopped his feet off beforehand if I wanted to do that. Like a bearskin rug would be funny, you're right. Although he does look like he's dressed for outside, so I'd be fine with a random kind of like half-grown over base. So I think I'll do that. We'll put him down on a plastic base and landscape it a little. That'll be a fast one, and Ron will be happy that it has a base. Alrighty, thank you everybody. No rounded today. Oh, yawns. Just lots of yawns from your resident Anne. Oh, boy. Yeah, thanks everybody for hanging around, listening to me pontificate, as always. And I I hope you all have a lovely, lovely day. Tutting at the weeds. Yes, yes. Yeah, and tomorrow we're continuing our Kathy. We actually had her skin tones worked out pretty well. And now it's time to like think about other parts of her. Like probably work on the breastplate and shoulders tomorrow. I'm just going to go slow on her because she's got so much metal on her. And I feel like if we go piece by piece, I can talk more about NMM on shapes. So we'll do that. So yeah, so tune in again tomorrow, everybody. Same bat time. Yawn, same bat channel. Obviously, I need a nap. A nap or some more caffeine. But yeah, thank you, Quindy, for riding herd, even despite your horrible receptionist related woes. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.